Material for the brain. Conversations for thinking bodies. In this show, together with our guests, we explore different ways in which we can develop a meaningful relationship with our bodies and minds and respond to the current state of the culture in a quest for more integrated and embodied perspectives. Hello and welcome to the 31st episode of Material for the Brain. Before we dive into today's episode, I have a short announcement. We, the Movement Lab team, is collaborating with the host team of the VOOC and Rolling Point Jams here in Vienna, and we are organizing together a day event on the 25th of March. It is going to be a long jam format that will start at 10 in the morning and will end at 10 at night. And within it, we will have 3 jams, a normal jam, the underscore jam, and a live music jam. So if you're living around Vienna and you would like to dance with us, you can get more information on jam.lessmore.co. Okay, my guest for today's episode is Christian Lechner, who is a communication trainer, a dance and movement educator, and an entrepreneur. He is the co-founder of the Tao magazine and a co-founder of the Auenweide Eco Village. I have known Christian for around 7 years. We met through our shared interest in dance and movement. Christian professional engagements form together a body of work that is tightly correlated with basic human needs, connection to the environment, to a community of people, and to one's own body. I was delighted to have him on my podcast and to dive into his work and insights from his integrative approach to both life and work. So, without further ado, here is Christian Lechner. Hello, Christian. Welcome to my podcast. How are you, my friend?
Hello, Matan. Yeah, happy to connect with you.
Yeah, I'm also super happy. We are already connected on the level of colors, it seems like. You also have a kind of a brown reddish background.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. How are you? Where do I catch you? What's up with you?
Where do you catch me? You catch me when you talk about my wall in our new community project where we moved in last year. The clay wall. It's a real earth built house where I'm quite proud of, so I need to mention it. I could talk for hours about building a community project, but where I am is trying to stepping back out of this coordination of bringing people together and to live and share, and focus again more on my main professional ideas that I want to share, and that's more about embodied communication and dance and movement.
Nice. You've been dancing more often in your new studio recently?
Yeah, exactly. We also built, that was a big dream, build a hall that is ready for dance. Still waiting for our dance there. And it works. We have regular classes, jam.
Yeah, nice. When did I visit you? I think a month ago or 2 months ago or something like this, no?
Something like that.
Yeah, you still owe me a dance in the studio.
It was too cold on this day, I guess.
Yeah. Cold but beautiful, very beautiful space. Yeah. Yes, I want to start just by kind of introducing a little bit, kind of what I want to talk to you, and also to bring the audience with us, and then to give you some time to share a little bit your story and what brought you here. And I thought just to kind of, for this short introduction, to bring some story from the past, which connects me a lot to what you're doing. And I was once involved in a certain dance event that happened somewhere in a very beautiful location in Italy, and many people after the event was finished, they had like a like kind of very emotional goodbye, like in many typical events, and then I was kind of thinking to myself, to which degree people have a very strong emotional response to the event, to which degree it's connected to the event itself, the content that we were doing, or to the kind of environment of the event, which is in principle a combination between being outdoor in a place that is very much connected to nature, so kind of touching kind of on the whole ecological aspect of being, with eating like healthy, fresh food. The other aspect is that you spend a certain amount of time living, eating, sleeping, sharing time with people, so community. And the last thing is that you've been being busy the whole day with physical training, dance, movement, so the whole, let's say, ecology of the body, the embodiment practices. And then I thought, okay, maybe if you just give these three things to people, they come out very emotionally and happy, because that's kind of, I don't know, maybe the main ingredients that we need in order to be well to some extent. And when I think about what you do, for me, like, I see a certain connection between these three topics. So I see this kind of triangle present in your work, but also in how you live your life. And that's kind of what I wanted to, that's why I wanted to bring you here into that space. How does that sound for you?
Yeah, that's, I guess.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that fully. No doubt for myself. I fully have the desire and a dream to live a life that is somehow sustainable, that is somehow connected to the earth and to real connected to the people. And I had some, I grew up in a community, by the way, where I kind of experienced this community feeling. And then I had quite a tough time in my teenager times, where I really got lost because the educational programs I were in didn't meet at all my desires and my needs. And so I went through quite a deep crisis. And then dance and authentic communication, but also these places where you can live and really experience that it's possible to create a living out of these values was very, very crucial for me.
And I want to mention another reason that I also wanted to have this conversation specifically with you, because I guess there's many people who might be interested in that kind of triangle, is that I also know you enough to know that you're not an ideologue. So I know that you're also kind of aware that that all these topics, they don't automatically lead to any utopian reality. I mean, we had our share, our own individual sharing. I know your life is not perfect. You know my life is not perfect, and we know that there's also like tension rising within these kind of utopian ideas. And for me, that's kind of another big thing to talk about. Like, okay, you know, how things could be improved, but also like what are the shadows, or what are the limitation of those ideas as well? Because I think that's something that, like, in most conversations, when people start to speak about, you know, the better ways of living, it's, to me, I often get the taste of this utopian fantasies versus then like a really real life challenges. And that's something I think that would be also worthwhile discussing.
Yeah.
So maybe we can start with just that you started already telling a little bit, but if you can dive more in details about, like, okay, your personal story and what brought you to live now in this community project that we will dive into in a moment to talk about.
Yeah, I fully agree that being or living in a community is not the solution itself. So it is quite a lot of work, and it's conflict arising. as everywhere. And actually, I really visited also many eco-villages and intentional communities. And one of an experienced guy told once, if you believe that you get someone else by moving into a community, this is wrong. You still bring yourself into the community with all your conflicts and all your patterns that you had before in the city or wherever. So of course, maybe there's beautiful nature or there are beautiful people around, but after there's also this community phases from Scott Beck that I really love. And the first phase is this pseudo community where, like in seminars and workshops, we fall in love into each other. We don't know really each other. We just have a good time. We see the good ideas and sides of each other and like falling in love. But we haven't really gone through anything, just, getting to know nice. And this is just the first phase. And after that, there's the chaos phase, where we start complaining about who didn't clear the dishes or who didn't do their jobs wherever, or who is like in our community, who is doing the most, who is doing nothing, how is it fair to do whatever, how free we are. And then find also the work with judgment and group dynamics, where people gather with different or same opinions, and you have this A and B people who look at each other, like we've experienced with Corona in the whole society. And then you have this in your community with different topics. And the third phase is the most challenging one, where it's about emptiness. So you are thrown back to yourself and find your own, your own emotions and your own why I'm judging in this way, why I'm complaining about this, how can I be an answer, not just question everything, and come back to myself. And if this happens, then in this theory, and I experience, this is always a process. It's not like after that we are done. Finally. Then Scott Beck calls it the authentic communication, but community, where people show up with their dark sides, with their different sides, but we know each other and can have the ability to go back to ourselves. And this is, I think, quite an important precondition to build up whatever project, I guess.
Interesting.
Not just a community house living. Each project, I guess, needs this kind of attitude.
Cycle.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's actually I wanted to be in my professional side more in this kind of NGO political worker. So I started studying political science and went to India for 1 year and started at the Sustainability Research Institute, asking the whole growth paradigm in our economy and society. But then I realized that within these organizations, there are a lot of tensions, a lot of conflicts happening, where I was more drawn to, because I realized that if we want to create a kind of more cooperative culture, we also need to learn how to practice and cultivate it in our daily life. And so I started really doing professional trainings on the communicational aspect of this culture, where we can listen and speak up honestly and share more deep than in the way I experienced it before. Somehow it was not my plan, but I started in my living room with my flatmates a practice group for free to practice authentic communication. And I mean, I did a lot with nonviolent communication. So this was my methodology behind. And then the first evening, 18 people sat in my living room and looked at me and was like, okay. And actually my roommate with whom I wanted to start it, he didn't show up. He just said, oh, I'm sorry, I have to study something. And I was like,
okay. So you had to jump into the cold water immediately.
That was my start in being self-employed with authentic communication. So I did my living room non-cost training for both sides for 2 or 3 years, really regularly each week. And there I had my experience to meet and guide people. Yeah, and then I realized that this is the work where I really can open up more easily than doing this research work that is quite meaningful, but somehow very heady and low. I mean, even we talked about embodiment, somehow try to bring this whole sustainability definition is about caring for the needs for the current society and for the future society. So we talked about what are the needs, which kind of needs are we talking about? And then it gets really interesting actually to talk about the real needs that we have. And yeah, there the body and the embodiment practice comes in because we have the need to self-connect, to feel our bodies, to let our emotions express, find safe spaces to, be authentic, to be honest. And then we would not need so much consumption and all the strategies we found to meet our needs that could be met differently when we would have another culture of, for example, educational programs. Yeah.
And how
so
did you
that was
get
my
into
pathway with communication, and community.
And how did you get into dance?
And dance, I mean, I loved sports, everything. I was kind of a universal I did everything a little bit. Did swimming tournaments and played soccer and whatever. And dance was for me always this more or less classical waltzer stuff. And somehow I couldn't dive into it. But then in my crisis years, when I was 15, 16, I started going to drum and bass parties. And this kind of music was somehow bringing me into a trance state. And I really know the first moment in my life where the dance floor was empty. No one was dancing. Everyone was like, waiting and drinking something. And there was somehow nice music. And the fog machine was like, come on there. And then I stepped with my elder companion on the dance floor and we started dancing. And from my feeling, we never stopped till the party ended 5-6 hours later. And this was something that I really discovered, moving my body, moving it more or less freely without any, prescribed steps. I had a kind of embodiment practice, and it really freed me from all the thoughts or stuff that were somehow making my life difficult. And this is what I did. Each Friday, each Saturday, I sat into a train, went with 2 or 3 friends to Vienna, went to the drum and bass parties till 6 a.m. in the morning, and then we went back. And I had really this dance trance for 2 or 3 years. This is somehow really my first practice. And then I did some improvisational courses here and there and dived in the capoeira and yoga and every kind of movement stuff. And then I got to know context improvisation 2008. And I went to a jam with no clue and did my first experience there with a lot of pains at the joints afterwards. But I somehow fell in love because it combined this element of free movement with this community aspect of listening and seeing each other, and also this close connection of touch and sensitivity. Yeah, that really somehow was like, this is a physical, non-verbal space how I would like to live.
Okay, so maybe we can start diving more into the different aspect of your work, and I wanted to start actually to talk a little bit about the communication aspects, and then we can relate it maybe into the community work. So maybe you can tell me and the audience a little bit more like what is happening in what you call authentic communication practices that you are doing with people.
Yeah, it relates to at least my main need of being in a real contact, authentic contact. That was a need I discovered and I haven't heard till I was 20, but somehow I always felt it. I need a real contact when I spend time with others. And authentic communication, and I mean, it's based on nonviolent communication, and I added some other ideas, is to firstly connect with myself, what I really need, what I really feel. So it's quite simple, but also sometimes tough to slow down and ask myself, how do I feel? And of course, I know the need. I take a lot of embodiment practice to really sense it in my body. I can move how I feel, what is alive right now, and find my own needs behind what I'm actually longing for. And then I can move it, then I can express it, or then I can ask for it in a dialogue and find the direct words without any indirect could you, whatever, but really daring to ask for it, really going for what I need. But always having in mind that I'm not dependent on the answer of the others. So if I get a no, I could actually be even thankful, because we don't often get a no, we often get a yes, but the others mean not a yes, they mean a no, just say yes out of friendliness. But if I get a no, it's actually a sign of, in deeper relationships, not in the street encounters, but if I get a no in deeper relations, then it's a sign of trust that the other person can share what she needs and is open or is listening to herself. And in the communication focus, then we have 2 other steps, and the other step is we could listen empathically, so we can dive into the other person and listen to her, what she needs. And even if there are judgments coming, I can listen or can practice listening behind what is behind. And someone tells me, in the last 2 weeks, I got this judgment of I'm always too fast and moving the project in a too quick way. Just started an initiative again.
You got this feedback from people you're living with?
I received this feedback from one of my neighbors. We all have our own houses, by the way. We have private houses and don't share our kitchen. And of course, I was somehow confronted by this judgment, and then I realized, okay, it's about her own way of approaching things and taking time, and and it's not about that I should change or I should do something or I did something wrong, but for her, it releases stress or triggers stress, and she needs more time for her own to reflect on this topic. But still, I don't need to change about how I approach the work that I'm doing. This is kind of letting different, I also sometimes call it universes, so everyone has their own universe and own values and own way of subjective perspectives, and we don't need to change them or agree on one universe. We just have to learn how we can coexist, let's coexist different universes and still find a way to cooperate. And this is the idea of empathic or compassionate listening. And then we still, in this case, I still was convinced that if we wait, this will not work at all. So I still I insisted on my tomorrow and next week, we're going to decide, and at the same time, I tried to support her finding her way in, that she also has the space to reflect. Also.
Okay, there's few things that comes in my mind, and first, I wonder to which degree, of course, the different cultures that we grew up affects this kind of general topic of communication, because my experience of living in Austria for the last 11, 12 years is that there's a lot of indirect communication, a very diplomatic way of talking to one another. So, for example, if somebody is doing something wrong, you will not say, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, "Hey, we are probably aware that it might be a better idea for the benefit of all of us." So it's kind of this indirectness.
Yeah.
And when I hear what you're saying, I feel like that kind of this really gives a certain permission to put this layer aside and to just say, "Hey, that's where I am. That's what I need." But if I kind of take this kind of ideas and apply it to where I come from, it feels like kind of a permission to be narcissistic, because people are anyhow so much in each other's faces, and everybody says exactly what they want immediately. And then how do you balance this kind of shadow that you can always tell yourself, okay, that's their need, but this is my need, and I'm connected to myself, and I just do what I want, because that could become kind of hyper individualistic. Everybody just listens to themselves. How do you balance it for yourself? And do you have some thoughts about it?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for bringing in the cultures where we come from and the different perspectives. I solved this question that I'm quite convinced that we have not just this needs that belong to ourselves and serve just ourselves, but as we are social beings, and we have this strong need for trustful, respectful, honest contact or relations. We call it the rebel phase, when I really go, now my need counts, and now I'm the one who is the me first. Sometimes this is a healthy phase where I really free myself from the expectations from others. If this is my pattern already, or I grew up in this kind of me first society, then I need to learn the other part. This listening to how my actions affect the others, and how can I build up trustful connections where it's not like in this superficial contacts, and we function together and we work together, but we also somehow connect more deeper to each other, where we can slow down also. And yes, we have this indirectness in maybe in the Austrian culture, subcultures, where this phrase "don't be nice, be real" fits quite well. So we need to maybe empower ourselves to just tell what we feel. If this is already the case, I congratulate. I love that, actually. But if something is missing, then the question is what? So maybe I'm happy with that. Maybe I miss a kind of deeper connection when I'm always just doing my own stuff in a hyper individualistic way.
And kind of a more of a personal question, but how do you manage to wear this hat and also allow yourself to be a human at the same time? Because I'm saying it from the point of view that, like, I can imagine that by having that kind of background also on a professional level, it also kind of builds up a certain expectation. Christian should be more because he is that. And also, I guess that it's maybe you also have your own expectation for yourself that I should be already like this or like that. But we are all human, and we probably, I mean, I guess you also get angry and shout.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very beautiful question. And that's true. Yeah, I really hear that sometimes. But you are this nonviolent communication trainer. You should be different. Act different, and when I just facilitate a community gathering, and I just said, by the way, what I need to practice is unfriendliness. So I'm sorry if you guys ask me something and I just say no. And it has nothing to do about I don't like you, or maybe it does too, but it has not to be. But yeah, it's quite a challenge for me to have this vision of and supporting a cooperative culture, and in the same time also not falling into the trap of that I have to be all the time in a certain way, because then I'm again in a nice mask stuff.
In a what?
Yeah. That I have to be nice or...
nice mask. Okay.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, like, that's maybe another already certain weird cultural expectation that, like, that being nice is somehow something that has to do with authenticity, or like that if you're like that being a kind person means to always be polite and friendly. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
Me, I'm in my nature. No. I'm not a very friendly person. I'm kind of. I don't mind to be rude in order to give somebody honest critique. And I feel that in many situations, people kind of really misunderstand me. But when let's say when there is a real crisis, I'm really willing to move out of my way to help people. But it still doesn't mean that I will do it, that I will sugarcoat somebody if I need to criticize what they're doing. But yeah, I guess it's quite a different challenge when you already have this community of people who know each other, and this expectation can become bigger and bigger. So how do you shatter it? Just by by sometimes, closing the door in the face of your neighbor, or like, what is the permission you allow yourself to be unfriendly there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. I mean, right now I know I have 2 or 3 tensions or conflicts in my community, and the people even ask me to talk about it. And I said, right now I have my priorities here and there. We can talk about it, but not now.
Okay.
So I'm practicing also holding tensions, and not. I know if we somehow come together and listen to each other, we will somehow understand in a more better way the different ideas. But it could be exhausting, and so I decide to say no to resolve certain tensions right now. So saying no is not just about, could you help me carrying something? Could also be, hey, something happened where I was disturbed by you, and I say yes, I hear that, and at the moment I focus on my whatever project. Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
sounds.
I think the word no is quite the key.
Yeah, and I have the feeling that it's like, especially maybe also within kind of another circle that we share interest, like the dance world, contact improvisation. Yeah, the word no has a very strong emotional context.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I felt like that that there is a different energetical effect to say no rather than to say yes, and that sometimes it's actually needed, and you cannot achieve certain quality that you need in a space by saying yes, but you need to say no sometimes. And I don't know. That's kind of lead me a little bit to another area that I wanted to check in with you, because you're also very busy in teaching and practicing contact improvisation, and that's kind of an area where a lot of the communication are being done non-verbally. And I was wondering, like, how do you see this relation between what you practice on communication on a verbal level and what you practice in communication on a physical level? Like, where is the meeting point, or like, where do you see also the differences that, like, oh, okay, it's really different? And
I mean, as far as I got to know contact improvisation, the first skill that you need to learn is getting soft and perceptive, so you can perceive yourself and others, even also slowing down your movements, your awareness, really getting centered into the space also. And it's a kind of listening skill, again, on a different level. And even when physical touch is happening, it enhances this quality of, wow, now I listen to the space, to myself, and to another universe that I maybe even don't know, and has completely different ways of movement or body tensions. It's quite feel able when you touch someone else, what kind of attitude she has right now, also approaching her life. I mean, if you have this strong tension, you get some idea how this person also solves problems in her life. And if you have this light fairy connection, then you also have an idea with what kind of personality you deal with. And I think this is a very important, maybe the first step for me to join and contact dance. But after some while, it gets boring, for me at least. And if there is nothing that somehow, that's why I, for example, love your work with the animal instinct stuff, where you introduced martial arts with contact, or Anja Klaub. She was the first contact dancer who hit me on my chest just during a jam, and we were like laughing and like, oh wow, it was just okay. But we also challenge each other, so we're not just in this friendly and being nice to each other, but we also want to wake us up somehow, or challenge also different parts of ourselves, not just this listening part. And for me, a contact dance gets really whole or fruitful if this kind of no or push or confrontation is part of it. It's quite clear for me if there's like I offer a movement and the other person resists, or there is this tension of just not moving in the same rhythm as I do, because usually what happens in dance is that we synchronize and we move in the same speed, pace, and same level, and somehow merge into oneness. But I think community or connection is then really fruitful if everyone's also keep her uniqueness. So doing her own stuff, doing her own research while even dancing with each other. And this happens if the no, if the challenge, if the directness of no, I don't follow you now, and no, I don't do this pattern of lifts or rolling over each other. No, I even lose the physical connection again and do my own solo stuff. This is where, for me, the real contact improvisation part starts, and where the real open sharing starts.
So you feel like that that kind of the notion of oneness requires also to embed within it the idea of separateness.
Yeah.
And so do you, when you guide into contact improvisation, do you use some of the verbal communication skills that you have in your background? Like, how do you introduce it in some way within your physical work, or you really keep these universes separate?
No, I love to combine it. I think that's quite the uniqueness of my work, that I still sometimes quite hard work, because I have no teacher that I can copy. I can copy contact improvisation exercises. I can copy classical communication exercises, but this
I must say I love this honest reflection, because like most of the time, especially in a situation like this, that you want to kind of present the great side of yourself, so to share, like, yeah, I cannot copy from someone else.
No, and I think I did a few years ago really this philosophical question, that where ideas arises, and it's always a kind of network, and you get here and there something, and of course you add something, but no one develops or discovers something out of the blue. There's always this field of others that inspire you, and you are the next maybe who do one step, but you always need, also for my work, I need this kind of community. And so, like now I'm sometimes stuck, I'm just starting this new format of embodied communication, and now I really like, okay, I somehow have the inherent feeling what I want to do and what it is about, but sometimes I question myself, okay, and does it make sense, and and how? And then I need to reach out to other people and who understand or are in the same field, and that helps me a lot to get an idea again. Or even sometimes it's not what I'm doing. Aha, you're doing this. Ah, no, this is not what but I want to do this. But it needs this kind of reflection and dialogue for myself, and I think it's quite important for developing whatever stuff. Yeah, and for my case, it's a process. I was invited 2017 from the contact jam in Salzburg to do the combination nonviolent communication meets contact improvisation. So with this invitation, I started really doing a whole weekend workshop, and I'm on my journey.
So can you share some of the gems or jewels that you're finding in this combination? Like, what are the things that you find happening on both ends of the spectrum? Like, how does the embodied practices helps to feed into the ability maybe to be real verbally, and what does this kind of verbal space does to the dance? I don't know if you have some thoughts.
I mean, I will never forget. I invented one. I think I really invented this. Otherwise, please write me. There are 2 or 3 exercises I really invented, but of course, the patterns I received from somewhere. Where it's about tuning into what I really need now in my life. And I have some needs words around in the room. And there's, for example, freedom or closeness or trust or structure or whatever. And in this workshop, a couple was there, and they did this exercise together. And the idea is that you don't share what kind of need you choose, but you embody the need. And then you have a 2 or 3 minutes score that you meet, and dance, contact or whatever, but you're not allowed to lose your need. So you have to embody your need while you dance your stuff and really stick to it. And she took freedom and he took closeness. And it was just like, a couple is doing this thing. It's really interesting. But the second frame or score was that you find a way of be in dialogue or in kind of cooperate. You don't give up yourself, but you're not in the solo trip that you maybe described before. You're just not, with freedom it's easy, but with closeness, I mean, you can hug yourself, but this psychodynamic of I can embody my need and bring it into the dance is really fruitful research that I really love, and I did it also for myself in a peer group several times, so it can be really interesting.
I mean, I'm kind of a relatively like a purist with my focus on physicality and technique and these things. And for many years, I was really excluding all the social aspect from my work, as if it's not about that at all. And if you are focusing on the social aspect, it's kind of you're denigrating the quality of the work. I had like a very idealistic framework, and thank God I matured a little bit, and now I can really see things differently. And I think that it's not, you cannot really separate it, because you are doing it. It's a social activity, whether you are focusing or not. You're meeting with other people, and sometimes I'm questioning, like whether kind of the work that you're doing does offer a certain shortcut into that skills, because I do believe that certain things could be learned, just with the physical skills, and that the technique does offer us an embodied experience of certain qualities of being and let's say communication skills. But I also got like feedback from another person who has been studying with me, and he's also coming from more the communication world. He's using a different methodology than yours, who told me that he had the feeling that a lot of time when verbal communication started, he felt like, wow, people have really hard time to express what they want, what they need, and it's all very murky and blurry within the contact world. I don't know, what is your experience? Do you feel like that, like if you compare kind of your experiences existing within contact communities, do you see a certain pattern that you will say like, hey, well, when you meet like people who are interested in nonviolent communication or other communication skills, yeah, they are way more proficient in expressing themselves? Or you do feel that these kind of physical practices help us in a way to connect, or that you really need to actively focus on it? Otherwise, you're just like dealing with, let's say the sporty aspect of the practice. Do you see the essence in the physical experiences or not? If you enjoy the conversation so far and found it meaningful, please consider to share the episode with others and to click the like button. These small actions might seem meaningless, but they are the fuel that helps the podcast project to move forward. Your attention and time is highly valued, and we would love to hear more about the insights you might have from listening to this episode. And please consider to subscribe to the channel to be notified for all future uploads.
A good question. I think it's hard for me to answer. Maybe because a critic is in front before my answer. And the critic is that sometimes in regular dance classes, you have this core of movement, dance, and then you sit in a circle and you are supposed to share. And for me, this is such a strong cut about, okay, now you move, now you talk. And in my experience, for a deeper sharing, for a deeper connection with what really happens inside of you, and you need to build up bridges, and you need to combine communication aspects to the dance and dance aspects to communication. That, at least for myself, I was quite sitting a lot of this year, like also studied with, I don't know, Nancy Stark-Smith or other grandmasters in contact improvisation. We did this also with Anja Cloud, and we did this contact stuff. And then we were sitting for 1 hour and sharing. And I somehow I could not really enter my essence of what I experienced and what I want to share. And maybe even my unsatisfaction about these settings or about my own state of not being able to really share the people or the, for me, really interesting stuff brought me constantly into this, okay, what would I need to express or experience more what happens in the movement, non-verbal world, or in the communicational world. So maybe even my lack of capability or ability is my motor to do other settings.
Okay, so you felt that like in this specific setting, just kind of to understand if I understand you properly, if we kind of bring it back to what you mentioned before, like the authentic communication, that was not accessible because of this abrupt, not crossfade, but really cut between physical experiences and verbal communication.
Yeah.
Interesting, because first it's very nice to hear this feedback, because it's again a great reminder how you need people with different experiences in order to be able to reflect on the culture, and like the fact that you're coming from like different, okay, you didn't grow up as a dancer and you come from a different context, and then you bring your perspective is very vital, because I'm also definitely trapped in that kind of paradigm that, okay, we dance a bit and we stop, we talk, we dance. Like I don't, it's kind of out of the realm of what I'm exploring. So can you share a little bit of like different options, or like how do you approach that kind of investigation?
I mean, you asked me also before how I include dance or movement into the communication. So there's also a very basic exercise that I love, that people were asked how they are right now, how was their day, what did they experience, and then they have the listener sitting, and the storyteller is telling the story non-verbally, with music, not with music, but they get 2 minutes and share whatever they have to share. So they have something in their mind, what they experience. So they really communicate something, but not in the theatrical, I fell over the staircase, boom, 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 but more in a more from the quality here, from the quality based. And then the listener is also asked to share non-verbally the quality that they perceived while listening to the other.
Okay.
This is a communication exercise, but fully based on movement. And this mixture about expressing oneself, movement, finding the communicational aspect in the dance, is something that I experienced, that it's quite, sometimes it has a stage feeling of, I have to show something now, or I do something precisely, but in the end, people, I think, really can open up to themselves.
But by the way, do you think that the factor that in most of those scenarios we meet people that we don't know is contributing to what you were experiencing, in the sense that, like, for example, you were part of my study group for one season, and for me, I kind of really noticed a bit of a difference. What happened when, like, people do get to know each other better just because of they're stuck kind of for a year. So then there is a certain type of quality that is being built, which maybe relates to this module that you describe about the community building or in the phases. So then it kind of supports it just by the duration. And when I imagine myself kind of in a certain festival setting, and then there is a sharing, by talking, I'm also kind of introducing myself, even though that it's not what it's about. I'm supposed to just share, but what I share is also a way to introduce myself to the others, and kind of all these social games are happening. And that's something that, like, can be also a bit awkward to immediately share some kind of a very, very deep thing that happened to me, and I prefer to keep the mask.
Yeah. That could be the critic about or the culture of you have to open up. You are authentic when you show your tears or your anger. If you're just bored or in resistance, or you just have a tired day, then that's not enough. The real heroes are the ones who are have really something meaningful to say. Yeah,
that's a good point.
I guess I attract people who want to open up. The others don't come a second time. So I guess, this is a kind of focus for me. But you have different ways of exploring movement or yourself. I have this authenticity approach. For some, this is very challenging word, because it doesn't exist. Everything you do is authentic, or I should be authentic, so I should be someone else. But what? No. So it can be very confusing. But if you can really relax into your authenticity, and even before I told you, by the way, I don't want to share everything from my life right now, so I also can select it. It's a concept in communication. You have a selective authenticity. You can select what you want to share from yourself, but it's not about you have to share everything all the time with all the random people you're sitting in this festival. So
Yeah, because I guess it also like, different personalities have different needs. And I guess like
Yeah.
I'm a more introverted person, so I just don't enjoy having a lot of chit chats and talking with many people. And then I prefer to just kind of maybe open up with one person out of
Yeah.
many. But
Yeah.
but that's an interesting funny critique that you bring about that kind of within the realm of, let's say, the search for the authentic self. There is sometimes a certain paradigm of or like a certain hierarchy of which
Mm-hmm.
aspect of ourselves are really authentic, and that boredom is also an experience. And why shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
why being bored wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be authentic,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, and it's the invitation. Like when I teach, I also always I learn from others, by the way, to also name if you are in resistance or if you are bored. That's just be with that. So it's not about you have to be in bliss when you follow my instructions, but you also can just be in a resistance to me as a facilitator. But I think the practice is to be in contact whatever is there. As this is my understanding or definition of authenticity. Just be present with what is, and being able to allow it to myself. And if I want to select it, if I want to share it, I can do it with others. And I think are many cases, at least in my life and experience it with others, where we are not capable, even if we want to share our real needs or real feelings. And that's why I'm quite interested in to train it also with random people, not always in front of a big group. It just can be whatever, especially in the dance, more movement spaces. It has not to be expressed in my understanding verbally. It's just maybe with one person, maybe with one word, but this word is really honoring what I experience.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Christian, can we dive into the community topic?
Of course.
I'm very curious to hear a little bit more, and maybe you can kind of bring the audience to physically where you are, and what does it and what does it mean to you, and kind of tell us a little bit the story of the community, and then we'll dive into kind of the different aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Where do I start? Maybe I start in this very concrete way of I ask myself how I want to live, and I always have this topic about, do we know our neighbors? Can we even relate to them? Where is our society going to in this phase of individualism that has a lot of positive aspects, freeing ourselves from old structures, from old ways of how we have to live in a certain way. So now we are quite freeing ourselves. But somehow I miss the way of belonging also. And that's why I was quite clear that I want to live in a way that is community orientated, and in the same time has also an ecological responsibility. So not just making beautiful houses and don't care about the rest. And one main influence that is called Ronnie Wittek, the one guy who is wanted to found the first eco-village in Austria. He said once at the bonfire that that it's actually not possible, but how would it be if we feel the pain that our consumption costs? And I was really much into this, we have our daily conflicts here in our daily life, but still we live based on economic system where we take all the time resources away from other continents, from other people who suffer a lot just because we want to have a good, cheap cotton or whatever graveyard. Even the stones for the graveyard are coming from the weirdest circumstances. So I was very much concerned and also really had my grief. And that's where I wanted to work politically, to work on the structural violence that we built up for many hundreds or thousand years. And then you need something concrete where you can integrate it in your life. And for me, it was building up a community that is built with ecological materials. And this is where me and my friends were committed to do. We started 4 years ago and found a land here in St. Andre-Wördern. It's close to Vienna, 25 minutes with the train. We just have 5 minutes to the train station. And we built here 10 big houses out of wood, straw, and clay. And this is quite something unique, at least in this area here. And we had a lot of meetings, a lot of effort to build it up. We also copied a lot of the good practices from other community projects. Now other people can copy it from us. Yeah, and we are 70 people here, all different ages, from 0 to 70. Have 2 community houses where we can spend time together, and we all have our private flats. But it's not a private property, it belongs to our association. So if someone moves out, the association decides who moves in as next. So we keep our vision through all the time.
So one thing that comes in mind first is to ask to which degree the shared vision is really distributed within the different members, or to which degree there is a certain freedom of as you said before, that we do have different needs and different values and they can coexist. And is it something that you're also trying to actively assess as a community in order to have the possibility for prolonged existence? Because I know that in many of those situations, the moment there's a differentiation from the main value, people split and go away. And again, I have the feeling that I have the intuition that you're thinking about it, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. This is a big question, and I think it keeps a question how everyone can be free doing whatever they want and still we have something in common. And what is the common ground? The main basic ground is and everyone signed it. Everyone signed it. Was that we want to try to live a sustainable life, whatever that means for everyone. Some people just go by a bicycle and don't have a car or have a car sharing. Others live vegan. Others, what else? Share all their materials and have second-hand stuff. Others are a researcher and work in different fields of improving resource efficiency. And others are just artists or psychotherapists and do whatever they do. So there is not a rule that you have to live plastic free or vegan. Everyone eats what they want to eat, and still there is this idea that we want to make steps into a direction of more sustainability. On the ecological side and the social side, we agreed that we are ready for conflict and we are ready to find the responsibility at ourselves as well. So this you have to agree if you want to move in here. And we have conflict teams. We have facilitators who help if you need help. But the main idea is please talk to each other. Or say no if you need a pause.
Yeah, that sounds I'm very interested exactly in this tension, like between, like, let's say kind of a certain group vision and individual needs, because I think that like you need groups in order to make impact, because it's very difficult, like, okay, let's say just the idea of sustainability, you can dedicate your life living plastic free or whatever that I mean I'm far from being an expert on what does sustainable living mean. Maybe plastic is not the most important thing, I don't know, but whatever, let's say that there is a certain ideal way of living, which again I think it's very hypothetical what I'm saying, and you can dedicate your whole life, but still the impact that you will do will be very insignificant. So you need to kind of motivate others alongside with you.
Exactly.
But with that comes always this potential tyrannic element that it's like that this individuals should now is subjected to this kind of group ideology, and that sounds like a very, very delicate thing, and it feels for me like that you're really kind of aware of it. But so then, like, on a practical level in your community, do you feel like there is a certain kind of red lines that should not be crossed, or is it also negotiable? Like, what is red line? How do we deal with, like, if somebody will, I don't know, I cannot give an example of, will do the most unsustainable thing you can do.
One guy has a SUV car.
A what?
A SUV. This is this car with extra wheels and this big car.
It takes a lot of petrol.
Takes a lot of petrol, exactly.
Okay. So how do you negotiate this? Like, what's your thought about that? Not this specific issue with the car, but like this tension between the individual and the group.
In the end, I mean, we can discuss it, and some people are really like, we have to reduce our waste in a certain way. But in the end, it always has to be attractive. Has to be, even people say sometimes, has to be sexy. So if people do it, like riding a bicycle is somehow more sexier than riding a car. Maybe, at least for myself. When I see someone riding a bicycle, I think like, wow. If I see someone in a car, I imagine I have always this picture of, wow, how much material, how much effort is to move this real big vehicle. Takes a lot of space. And some people even think they are the most important on the streets. Why? But I have a car. I need it right now, and I drive with it. So I think we should not go to a religious way of that's right and that's wrong. But I think the main direction is clear. And if I'm quite alert if something comes to a must, I go into resistance. And that's also a definition about cooperation. Cooperation functions if the people understand the idea, if they're free to choose, and if they can trust that their own needs are also met.
Second, so these are the conditions for?
Cooperation.
Cooperation.
So if I want to cooperate with a certain idea of a community member, first I need to understand it. Second, I have to be sure that my own needs are also seen and met. Maybe I can share a car, or someone helps me with buying goods or whatever. And I want to be free if I want to share my car or not. So I can say no or yes. And if this is not possible, I think it's not attractive.
So it seems to me like that in a way you kind of honor human needs alongside with your desire to develop, let's say, a more aware way of coexisting with the natural environment, no?
Yeah, I mean, we are maybe we are also, even the other communities maybe say we are boring and have not really radical aspects in our living together. That's true. You can live a very ordinary life in front of your TV the whole day and eat chips and have burgers, and Amazon is delivering you all your goods, and maybe you don't get best friends with the barefoot shoe wearing guy who lives out of the garbage, but that's okay. You don't have to get best friends.
No, but but I think like that there is something for me when I hear you speaking, and I've also I've visited your community, and I've seen that, you know, there's like quite proximity between the houses, and there's a shared space, you know, everyone. And to some degree, I guess that it kind of, if you choose to live that kind of lifestyle, it's not going to be hidden. People will see the Amazon keeps on coming, or, you know, like they cannot kind of stare from the window and see, okay, he's always in the eating chips. But at the same time, to be able to also hold it and saying like, okay, maybe that person kind of, that's what they need at the moment, and like kind of forcing them into a different way will not really move it forward. And I think that's kind of what I feel that it's a great attempt of balancing, because, you know, like the moment you allow yourself to subscribe to totalitarian vision, then, you know, everything is possible. You can radicalize everything. And the moment you're not willing to negotiate at all your personal freedom, you're stuck in the, you know, like kind of chaos. Everybody does whatever they want. There is no direction that anything goes. And it feels like a very, very, you know what? I would say that this is radical. That's where the radicality in what you're doing is the attempt to balance those aspects, to integrate them. And you know, because again, in most kind of extreme radical communities, I bet that if you just object 1 millimeter out of the vision, you will be ostracized, and everybody will say, like, you're the devil, no? And where would be the empathy, and where would be the human connection, and where is authenticity, and where are like the richness of life, no? And so I say you are radical.
Yeah, it's a field of potential, you know, and what is the right way of living, no one can really tell. And I hope no one will do. Otherwise, he will get troubles. For sure. I think it's about self-empowerment, that everyone is really living her own life. And if you want to fly to Hawaii twice a year, then you fly to Hawaii twice a year. And maybe this is your real empowerment, and everything else is somehow on a more political level. What a flight ticket costs, and why don't we price the kerosene taxes for it? That's another topic. You can engage for it or not, but on a community level, we want to accept each other as we are.
And where does it come? Like where is the when we talk about, okay, I'm speaking now with you from, and not with kind of this abstract entity of the community, but what is the space in you that kind of really wants to honor the individual? What helps you to keep that perspective and not to fall trap into this kind of utopian totalitarian vision? Because I feel that it's a very, very difficult thing to do nowadays generally, not to fall into very ideological thinking in the way information is being disseminated, in the way communication is being practiced. So what helps you to center around that kind of holding these two opposing things?
I think I wanna enjoy my life. Because if I sit with 4 other people and have my only truth opinion, I will not have an easy time, because we don't accept gurus, and I always get a different point of view when I sit together with other people. I think even the healthy dynamic, even if, I don't know, I mean, we are contact improv dancers, but still, I guess we will find enough stuff where we disagree, or we say, no, this is the main thing. Or I think we humans are also always also nature to find disharmony or disagree with certain perspectives, to diverse and to enrich ways of living or perspectives. And I think this is, as you said, maybe this is the radical approach, that we created a field where we can connect, but we don't have to. And we can, I mean, I can start an initiative to do car fasting and go everywhere by bicycle. And maybe 10 people join me, and the rest is busy with something else. This is a potential, but not a must. And if it's fun and people see how we get trained and get more maybe radiate our proudness of achievements without insulting the others, then I think it's attractive.
Yeah, it's kind of I feel like that the what lies underneath it is like, to which degree you're really open to look at your own relation with power. Because I think power, no matter in which direction you embody it, it's a very seductive force that is very, 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 very difficult to manage long term. And like, you know, like there's you could talk all day about dismantling power structure, but as long as your vision to it is totalitarian, you're not actually moving in the right way, and that's a very, very tricky thing. And
experiencing power situations in a different way is quite political, because we had the teacher who was in front and had the power, and we were somehow resisting or not. But living or sharing something together and realizing that we share power and we can decide for ourselves is, I think, quite transforming our experiences. And expectations also. There are a lot of fears also to be in community, and it might be true if we try to manipulate the others.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's really kind of my own personal bias at the moment that I see integration as the kind of new radical space to enter. But I really feel that it's like that there's a certain tendencies that I sense around with the kind of funnel, like invisible funnels of how we think and how we act in the world, and like kind of you surround yourself in a certain environment and you start thinking in a certain way, and then everything that is out of that, let's say, area of interest becomes kind of very, very inaccessible, and sometimes even like representing like something that you want to oppose. And I feel like that's a big thing that needs to happen in order to culturally, in order to step forward, because because like, I mean, on one hand there is something very true about what you're saying, that like, hey, who knows what's the right way of living? But that kind of leaves us in a complete chaos. Like, okay, then nothing is right, you can go everywhere, whatever. But you do need to take a certain decision at the end, and you say, okay, no, my decision is sustainable living. But then the moment you start enforcing it, then you're not honoring the fact that there are different perspectives. But at the same time, you do want to act in the world, and I think that that to find the just to accept, kind of bring into attention this tension is already a move forward in order to come out of this relativistic chaos in a way that doesn't make us the next dictators. So it's a pretty cool attempt that you're doing there on your scale.
I mean, if I look at us, maybe it's also a point of age. There's a joke that says, if you're with 20, no Marxist, like this left revolutionary guy, you have no heart. If you're with 30, still a Marxist, you have no brain. So maybe after some years of, fighting for one truth, or like, this is the one thing, as you said also in your dance classes, you said, this is the thing that you want to teach. But you take yourself quite away some other beautiful aspects. And you are in conflict all the time with half of the rest of the people. This is quite also, as you say, if I honor my inner voices, because I still see that each outer conflict is also an inner conflict. So, of course, I for myself enjoy meat. I for myself enjoy driving the car. I for myself enjoy Bali. And if I deny it or just say no, not at all, and all the people who do this are bad, I'm not sure, as you said, if this is an attractive way of living for yourself and as a model for others. So it has to be, I think, attractive. And you have to radiate that it's like really serving your own need, and not just because of pressure. If I don't do this, then whatever happens.
Yeah, and I would say I'm also like just a true believer that, like that the moment you do something genuine, it becomes and you are connected to your needs, and you are in the right place, it becomes attractive naturally. It's something that comes without effort. And I think that it's a little bit like, if I kind of bring it back to kind of my more embodied perspectives, when you do a movement that you're well connected to yourself, it's much easier to execute it than when you have a certain idea of what you should be able to do, and then you're already in a certain tension.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel that on this, let's say, kind of Darwinian perspective of which ideas survives, I think that that the ideas that have a certain attractive quality that really moves us forward into a way that is better for us, they will survive. And I think that maybe when you brought up the idea of like if you are 20s and you don't have any, you don't include marks in the ideas you grapple with, you don't have a heart. I think that's maybe why this kind of system of ideas still survives, because it does point out to a certain direction, even though, let's say, most socialist communist ideas fail to in reality, but the essence of them is like pointing into the direction, like where there is other people who are suffering, like, and what is your relation with that? And that's an idea that is a good idea to have in your mind, and not just like, as you said, like, what do I need? So I think like that the what you're saying about attractiveness is definitely, it's not something that can be linked to power, not at all.
Yeah, it has to create a kind of feeling of richness or abundance, but it's not taking something away, but opening up new possibilities, I think. And for me, the paradigm of scarcity, like lack of, is quite immanent in our growth-based economy. And for me, it was very essential to listen to 3 core points of the belief sentences that are named in there or based in there. And it's like, there is not enough, more is better, and there is no alternative. And I think somehow quite many systems that are running are based on this beliefs, are in this paradigm.
Not enough, more is better, there is no alternative.
There is not enough, more is better, and there is no alternative. And I think we have to create alternatives where we realize there is enough, so there is abundance, and we don't need to get better or do it all the time quicker, better, faster, but not more is not better. Yeah. And the same thing is also on a personal level, because we also get introduced in school, I think, that I am not enough. I have to learn 12 years till maybe I'm mature to be worthy to work. And I always need to study more and study more and study more, and there is no alternative in. And this is the personal level of self-improvement, that I have to get nicer, that I have to get more, That also I think we can more relax and just say, okay, yes, I will never get enough, in the meaning of I will never get the perfect communicator and dancer and ecological builder and conflict facilitator and whatever. But I trust my intention, and we know that intention and attitude is the most important aspect of a successful intervention. So if I have this attitude of serving or of listening, then my tools are secondary. And I think this basic idea is what we need to spread, not if we eat meat or ride the bicycle.
Yeah, I'm full on board with that. What you're saying right now. Hey man, it's I know you told me your time limits, so I wanna honor it and not to drag you more. Even though I have like other things I wanted to open up, but it's okay. We can meet up again here in that space. I want to give you a few moments to kind of direct people to the things you're doing. If you want to share, if people are kind of curious from this episode to experience your work and connect to what you do in different ways, from the community project to the workshops. So yeah, please take your time to kind of direct people into that.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you, dear Matan, that you take your time and effort and professional skills to offer this kind of spaces. And also I experience yourself quite also as a new column in our Vienna jam culture. And I love that you build up a new way of communication also there, like in the last years, about sexual abuse stuff and how we host jams safely for everyone. I really appreciate that. Yeah, name that in this moment. And I for myself, if you want to get to know this community, it's called Auenweide.at. Maybe we can type it in somewhere.
Yeah, everything you're sharing now, I will put the links in the show notes.
Perfect.
So people don't need to remember.
Yeah. This whole stuff about communication, mainly in German. Sometimes I hold classes in English, but mainly in Vienna, called wegezurfülle.net. I have a bunch of different trainings. You can do the whole communication trainer course with me or with Irma, with whom I built up this institute, and the whole more emotional, authentic dance, contact, improv style you can find us on Art of Contact.
Cool. I will put all the links there, and I really recommend people who are curious in these things to approach you. I feel like that I'm very happy to see how our relationship can grow alongside, even though that initially I kind of met you as somebody who studied with me, but I really super appreciate the things you're doing on many, many levels, and I'm very happy to walk alongside you and see the things that you're building, and to also find my way to experience the qualities that you bring to the world. So thank you very much for coming here, and until the next time.
Yeah, we continue this next time.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
If you want to see more precious and insightful moments, make sure to check our short clips playlist. To see longer interviews, check out the full episode playlist just below it. And to be notified for all future videos, click the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the notification bell. See you on the next episode.